bring it back to the now and be really present where you are right now. And that's what meditation does. That's what journaling does. It brings you into right now. And then you can make a list of things, and what you can change, you can change. And then what you can't, you have to then let it go. Okay, so hi and welcome back to the Mindset and Marketing Podcast. I am your co-host for today, Matthew Toman.
And I am Sharon Kirkpatrick.
As you can see, we are filming this remotely. So this is our first podcast. It's our first podcast remotely and our second attempt. So we just, we had to just cut everything because I was using a different camera and the battery went dead. Now I'm using my phone and Zoom, obviously. And but we have to get used to this because I'm going to be going on the road soon.
I think we celebrated too soon earlier. You know, we were like really excited that we done it, and then all of a sudden something stopped.
We definitely thought that we were great. We were like, yes, we've got that sorted. But literally we have set up the sound, the Zoom, the lights, the cameras, everything together or independently. And even though we have a digital media agency and we have a full-time online digital jobs, we are not technical.
People don't realize, you know, guys, you don't realize what goes into like doing sound and recording and lights. It's intense. I do like just rocking up somewhere and just being able to, you know, start talking. But this is obviously more beneficial for the future.
Well, we're going to have to do this because we're going on the road soon. So, I'm going to be traveling. So I'm going to be taking this kit with me and then just try. Well, I've got all lights and everything in America anyway. Just a new sound desk that I got. I'm really happy to bring that with me now. But anyway, how was your week?
So this week, you and I actually both went to my therapist ghosted me.
Oh yeah, another podcast that we listened to. I have to admit, I do listen to it religiously. I have to admit, I do.
It's so much fun. So for those that don't know, it's like Joan and Vogue, two Irish girls and they're comedians. We might have said this before, but they brought their show on live on stage. So they brought it to the big arena in Belfast and it was an absolute hoot.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah. It was so funny. I really enjoyed it. And actually where I live is right beside the stadium. So I end up having a few friends over beforehand, Sharon included, with her friend Nick and a few people. And then we ended up having a drink here and some pizza, some food, and then went over. But I really enjoyed it. It was such a good night. I couldn't believe how many people it sold out.
Your apartment was so handy. Like literally we could see from that window where Matthew is now to the entrance of the...
This is there. Takes like minutes to walk to.
It was perfect.
Yeah. And then everybody got stuck in traffic leaving. Talking about stuck in traffic, I got stuck in traffic last night. It took me nearly 2 hours to get from here to my mum's house. Nearly 2 hours. I was in the same place for over an hour. And
which, by the way, normally takes 20 minutes.
Yeah, I would be from my house to somewhere else in like 20 minutes. I just could not believe it last night. I was saying there has to be something wrong here. I was trying to Google to see if there was a car accident. It gave me PTSD because whenever I done refrigeration, I used to sit in traffic every single morning and every single night going home. And I started to calculate out last night, sitting in the car. I was like, how much did I get paid? You know, I was starting to think back how much I got paid. And then I was working out my salary and work. And then I was on the tax take home calculator on how much money I would have been taking home. And I was thinking, I can't even comprehend that was my normality. And I can't believe that a lot of people are still doing that and don't know any different at all. And that's not to sound anyway arrogant, and apologies if it does come across like that. I'm just saying that there is so many opportunities to go and start your own business. And I can now make my year's salary in 1 month. I can make it actually in 1 week. Do you know what I mean? And I can make like my monthly salary in 1 day or maybe half a day on a couple of calls. And I'm not saying that to say, oh God, I'm great. I'm saying that anybody can do that. I am not technical. I'm dyslexic. I, just have an idea and have went after it, and found out what I'm good at. And that's what I recommend every single person who was sitting in traffic last night alongside me for 2 hours to go and do. Go and learn, go and take the skill set you already have and turn it into a profitable business that you can then not ever have to sit in that traffic again. I will never cross the door between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock again in this city.
I think it's a fair point. TransLink, though, have a big billboard up that's a train provider over here, and they say it's positioned right at the junction of the motorway, and it says something like, don't waste your life or don't waste your time in traffic, take the train. So you could
Yeah.
take the train as well if you're not prepared yet to start a new business.
I will actually say something else here, right? So don't feel that you have to start a new business. You could actually just upskill within your company, become so good within your own company, and then tell your company, I'm brilliant at what I do, and I'm not working from the office every day. And if you want me to stay here and continue doing what I'm doing, then I will. But if you don't, then I'm not. I'm going to have to look elsewhere. Just
I
upskill
think
yourself.
I think loads of people now do a bit of a hybrid, like me, office, on the road, and at home. But there are still businesses out there, that are expecting you in the office immediately.
Yeah. Well,
I
you
don't
have it
know. I
kind of
couldn't do
nailed.
that.
You do like hybrid, office, home, train, drive. Like you do an absolute mixture of everything.
Doing it all. Doing it all. Speaking of public transport, well, I actually didn't get to finish what my week was. So then I was over in London,
Oh yeah.
seeing my wee niece and nephew, because my wee nephew, Elsie, he was 2. So my weekend was spent with kids. I feel like I'm always with kids now. I'm always
You should
talking about this.
actually. Can I tell another short story that might benefit somebody?
Yeah.
I was driving back from Dublin last Thursday, right, and I was on the carriageway from Newry to Belfast, and the carriageway goes from 70 to 60 to 70 to 60 all the way through, right? So you have to keep an eye on the on your speed, because there's always people checking for cameras, and you're always getting speed checked on that road. So I use cruise control whenever I'm in those areas all the time, right? So I use cruise control and set it. So this car, I was probably going more than 60, not much more than 60. I don't think I would have been legally breaking the speed limit above 60. So this, I don't know, potentially, right? I was on cruise control. I do believe that I was within the speed limit. And this car comes flying up behind me, a BMW. And then I was like, God, I feel like I need to get out of the way because they're speeding. Pulled into the left lane. The car flies up beside me, right? Looks at me, and I was like, nearly swerved towards me. And I was like, what are you doing? You mate, you're driving like a maniac. Puts on the lights. It was the cops, right? So I was like, oh my God, the car. I didn't realize they drove that type of car. I was like, flip sec, what speed was I doing? Because I was so distracted by the way they were getting on. So anyway, gets out of the car, comes over, tells me that you are, do you know what speed you were doing? And I said, pretty sure I was doing around 60. And he said, do you know what the speed limit on the road was? And I said 60. And he said, no, you weren't doing 60. I was like, okay. I said, have you got that on camera? And he said, yeah, I was pacing you. There's cameras all around my car. And he pulled out this device and said, you were doing 77. Now, I was like, I was not doing 77 miles an hour. I said to them, I wasn't doing 77 miles an hour. And he said, yes, you were. And you're getting 3 points and all that stuff in the fine. And I just went, do you want to know what? I just had it in my gut that I wasn't doing that speed. So I just said, look, I'm not accepting these. I'm not accepting that. I want the certificate off your speedometer and all that. Sort of got into one with him. The guy who was with me was freaking out. We were down filming on one of the jobs. He's like, you're not wise. He took my phone number, and the cop rang me that night and apologized and got back to the police station, checked his calibration. His calibration wasn't working, and apologized for trying to give me a speeding ticket, and it wouldn't have stood up in court. Now, if I had took those points, do you know what I mean? I would have had 3
Yeah.
points on my license and a fine. But because I knew that I was not doing 77, and I said to him, I knew your calibration was off because there's no way I was doing that speed. And he said, I still think you were speeding. And I said, well, I wasn't. Do you know, I was within the speed limit. But that's just a bit of a note and a bit of a rant. We can move on to
If
the main topics of the podcast
if
now.
if that was me, just as a side note, I'd have walked away with 3 points.
Well, do you want to know what?
Haven't had a point in my life, but I'd walk away with 3 that day.
Yeah. I took 3 points about a month ago, and I really wish I had done the same thing.
I'm just going to do that from now on.
Well, no, I'm not going to speed, but obviously,
I was thinking that should have been the lesson learned there.
Well, it is, but also if you know that you weren't speeding, stick to your guns, go to court. I said, mate, I'm going to court. I don't care. I know I wasn't doing that speed. His speedometer was wrong, But
Yeah.
as you said, like other people would have took those points, and doing 17 miles an hour above the speed limit, that's a lot, you know. And I was not doing that.
It's too much. Well, that's good
Anyway,
though that you
that's a
had
bit of a
the
tip. Yeah.
yeah, and that is well. Thanks for sharing that because I'm sure that that wasn't the only person. You know, you're not the only person that's happened to. You know, I wouldn't have the balls. I'd be like, thank you so much for these points.
I know you would. That's why I said I rang you straight away. I was like, "Don't you ever accept them
I
points?" But
know.
you would never even get pulled over anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, let's touch wood.
Touch
Well, that
something, yeah.
probably yeah, that would that probably brings us on to your topics then, because what we were going to talk about today was anxiety.
Did get a little bit of anxiety. Now I'm not going to lie. Do you know? Whenever I was saying it, because I was really contemplating, should I or should I not? And you do get that gut feeling. We were like, but I just stuck to what I was my guns. You know?
See if the police. I've been pulled over by police before, right? And even though I know I've done nothing, I still feel sick, get shaky, get nervous, get worried, all of the emotions in a second. Like literally the fear. Even though I know I've done nothing wrong, I can't cope. Like I can't cope
Yeah.
with that. Now, obviously, that's not anxiety because that's just a temporary, kind of a temporary feeling to that situation that goes away. But oh, horrible, horrible.
Well, I don't get that in that situation, but I do get anxious in other areas. Like I always get anxious around whenever it comes to health. Do you know if you find like a lump or a bump and and then you're like, oh my God, like I have myself worked up. Google doctor, I'm on to like our friend Ashleen, the doctor. I'm like, hey Ashleen, sending her photographs. Like I get really, really anxious when it comes to health. I think because one of the reasons is well, I've never been unhealthy, like, but whenever I was coming off alcohol, I got really sick with kidney infections and all these different things going on with me. Um,
When
but
you were coming off alcohol, you got sick.
yeah, I got really sick for like 6 months after that, like because I stopped drinking like excessively and smoking and eating meat and doing loads of different things. I stopped.
Yeah, your
I
body was
lost
like,
so
"What
much.
the hell's going on?"
My face was the color of the grey sky behind me, and it really was. And my doctors were kind of concerned at the time. And I was so I'm always anxious around things. Like I could probably tell you what my oxygen levels are right now, my blood levels. Like I get so much done all the time. I'm always getting things done and checked because there is something with that I do what I would hold a bit of anxiety around, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure we all know people or ourselves, someone there that close to you that has experienced or, has to kind of learn to kind of cope with their anxiety. Because it
Hmm.
said that when I was looking it up, it was like there was around 300 million people in the world that experience some form of anxiety. Um, and I was kind of going, right, well, what is anxiety? I know what it is, like broadly speaking, but like I said earlier there, so there's, when you get that feeling of like worry, of fear, of panic, you know, all of those things that then lead into the symptoms. But how do you know if you've got anxiety or you're just literally worried or,
Yeah. Are
like
you
how do you know
asking
the
me like
difference?
well,
Well,
my,
I was asking myself more, to try and figure it out. So apparently it is the case where it's more that if it's a temporary worry or if it's a temporary stress or it's a temporary feeling of tense or being on edge about something, then that is just what that was, the worry, the fear of that. But if it's kind of an ongoing, if you're experiencing those feelings on an ongoing basis about specific situations, then that's whenever it is then kind of moves into kind of the anxiety field. So like apparently whenever, because obviously people can go to the doctors to get help with their anxiety if it gets quite bad. Um Doctors will kind of look at it and see, has this been happening for like a 6 month kind of period and onwards? And then they're going to start kind of looking at it then and kind of seeing what they can do to kind of help, that person at that point. Whereas if I went in and was like, geez, I'm really worried about this particular situation. Not that I would go to the doctor for one situation, but you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because you're hearing the term all the time now. I'm like, how do you know if it's anxiety, and how do you know if it's just, and I think it kind of was figuring that out. I don't know if everyone knows that, but I didn't,
Yeah.
you know?
I I think it's like I always look at it like as my gut feeling, you know. So even again referring to back in the day whenever I was, one of my businesses weren't doing well back when the last housing recession in 2008 to 2012, that recession really really hit me hard, and I had like this uncomfortable like feeling in my stomach all the time. It was like I'm going to be sick, and I had booked in to get an MRI. I'd booked in to get like all these things. I kept going back to the doctor, and the doctor thought I had vertigo, was giving me tablets to take for vertigo. And then I went to this guy, and he just said, "Look, I want you to write down everything that's going on in your head right now. I want you to write down everything's going on in your life, sorry." And I started to write it down, banks phoning for this, tenants doing this happening, interest rates going high, not being able to get a mortgage deal, working, whenever my business was crumbling that time, because I'd never ever knew what a recession was. I never like, the word recession now is a buzzword, but this is like I was only in my early 20s, I bought my first house at 19. So whenever I went through, I started to then I had this absolute feeling in my stomach that I just couldn't eat. I couldn't communicate with people. I was distracted. I was smoking, and I couldn't deal with it. And I actually went through wrote all these things down and started to write them. And the doctor said, "You're suffering." It was like a therapist doctor. I think he was still a doctor, but he
Yeah.
said, "Look, you're suffering from anxiety. Like you've got anxiety." And this is like back in like in the noughties, in 2008, 7, 8, 9, 10 type thing. So it was like a long time ago, and it wasn't as common then. And I said to him, what does that mean? Like, what do I do? And honestly, I'm not going to lie, that feeling of like my chest being up here and me, like my breathing like that, like holding all of my everything here didn't go away until I got into meditation and journaling, and just got all the things that was in my head out of my head, and what I find that there's, you know, they say like depression is often thinking too much about the past and things that you can't change and things that happened. Anxiety is often thinking about things in the future that you also can't control. So you're very anxious. So what you got to do is try to become present, like bring it back to the now and be really present where you are right now. And that's what I do, try to focus on. And that's what meditation does. That's what journaling does. It brings you into right now. And then you can make a list of things, and what you can change, you can change. And then what you can't, you have to then let it go. Back then
Yeah.
I had no control over the interest rates, but that was my biggest worry. But that I had no control over that. And really I had to let my business go. And at that time, and I learned a lot of lessons from it. It was the hardest time in my life. But a lot of people their anxiety took another level and their depression took another level. And in that downturn, a lot of people committed suicide. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I can remember seeing it on the front page of papers, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that. Because again, I'd never experienced anything like this. And I just knew that I was never going to be one of those people. And I knew that everything that was happening to me, I had no real control over it. It was just this freight train that was running. And I just had to say, I have to control what it is. And I let everything burn to the ground, I had no choice. And my
Yeah.
accountant said to me, like, Matthew, you can't save this. We got to look at these options. But around that whole time, my pit of my stomach was just like everybody's had that, as you
Do you
said,
know,
like we've all had that.
well, this is obviously people can get it, real severe, and we'll talk about that. And like I was trying to think, have I ever had anxiety? Like, have I, kind of felt those feelings? And the one thing that comes to my mind is like years ago, whenever I was over with, my wee niece Ilaria. So she was 2 and she got diagnosed, with cancer, and it was horrible. We thought our whole world was over, and they live in England. So it was Christmas Eve when we found out. So me and my mom flew over on Christmas Eve and then straight to the hospital, and we're with them for that initial kind of phase of understanding what all this meant, and kind of going through the treatment plan and being there for them and being there for Ilaria. And like I was there for like 2 weeks, and it was just in the hospital, every day, and they miss Christmas. I know it's not important in the grand scheme of things, but it is hard, and you're in the ward seeing all these little sick children, and it's just heartbreaking.
Mm.
And so it was all hands on deck, and you don't really have time to think about or process what's going on. You're just in it and trying to get through it. So that was all okay. I got home then about 2 weeks later, and I was in, and I felt fine. I thought, I felt okay, but I was in the shower, right? And then all of a sudden, I started getting a tingly head, and it
It's
went
always the
all,
shower.
no, it went all, well, is it? It went
Yeah, I
all the
think so.
way down my body. Like, and
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like that in my life. I didn't know what was wrong. I got out of the shower and I literally couldn't breathe. Like, I was like, I'm having a heart attack. My chest was aching and I was like,
Yeah.
find it hard to breathe. Rachel had just went out to the shops and I phoned her and I'm like, you need to get back here. Like, something's happened to me. I'm about to die. Like, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on. And eventually through time, it kind of subsided. And I was like, oh my God. Like, my body was obviously, worried, stressed, feared about all of those things, thinking about the future as well. Like you say, what does this mean now? I'm not there for her.
Mm.
What's going to happen? Thankfully, all's working out. But, your body you're just getting on with it. But your body then reaches a point where it's telling you and it comes out in these different forms. Like, I think you can have like palpitations, you can just feel irritable, you can have trouble sleeping, you can get shaky. Like, there's loads of different signs and symptoms of kind of like anxiety, stress, whatever it is, but sometimes, and
Yeah.
that's your body telling you, because sometimes your mind isn't prepared to accept it or doesn't realize, that.
Where that's the thing, and like where I've had like weirdly, yours was life threatening, right? Like Ilaria, his life
Yeah,
was under
yeah.
threat. Yet, why do we feel exactly the same whenever mine was not even anywhere near as severe? Or if you're having a breakup, or if you are missing, like if you're having a shortfall at the end of the month for cash flow, for you know what I mean? It all spills into this same feeling.
I know, and that's hard to kind of answer. Obviously, everyone, like, I guess, because when I was looking it up, there's obviously a million different triggers, but kind of the main kind of triggers of anxiety is, like you mentioned, the health concerns is one, like financial concerns is one that you
Yeah.
touched on, like negative thinking can cause anxiety, conflict, trauma from like before,
Yeah.
so there's loads of different, apparently caffeine and alcohol
Yeah.
and
Oh
medications.
God, yeah.
Whenever you ask about, how obviously there's loads of different things and some things are bigger than others, but yet the feelings still, the anxiety
Yeah.
might be worse or less for others, but everybody has different tolerance levels, don't they?
Yeah.
That's just,
I had big time. That's like going through a breakup, can't eat, going, there's nothing like financial stress. There's nothing like that's why I said everybody, people say money can't make you happy. And I disagree completely. I think that it can, and I focus all the time on not saving money, but making money with each of the businesses and make sure they're all in profit and everybody's paid. And we're like always moving towards financial goals and always have them set, and do not for even a second feel bad about that. Even whenever I'm talking to my family or something, they might have a different opinion of it because they think that's not how we're brought up. That's not, money doesn't grow on trees. You can't just do that. Not everybody can do that. All these absolute lies that everybody tells themselves. So
now money grows online.
yeah, online, that's where it does grow. So you got to get on there. But I'm telling you now, if you have more money, you're less anxious. Also, like getting out and getting steps in, going out for a walk, making sure that you're keeping an eye on your fitness and your health, and like going to the gym. And, I I had to give up alcohol. Do you know what I mean? That was one of the ones that gave it up. So maybe I'm not saying to give up alcohol. I'm really not saying that. I don't say that to anybody. But if you are suffering from anxiety, don't be taking substances, whether it's drugs, drink, caffeine, dopamine hits from your phone. If you're not meant to be looking at something, try to monitor your intake of that stuff, and it will help. I haven't had a single bit of anxiety in a very, very long time, and
Yeah.
it feels good because I remember what it was like. But if I was still drinking, I would still be having the Monday blues. Like I haven't had the Monday blues in over 7 years, longer
Oh,
probably.
the hangovers, they get
they bring on
worse.
they bring on
They
the
get
anxiety.
worse.
They do cause a bit of emotional distress.
I know. And that's the thing, with like anxiety, obviously we can't fix it. We wish if we could, we would for everybody.
Yeah,
But there are things that you can do, like you were saying, Matthew, try and like look out for those triggers, Are you constantly worried or stressed or agitated or not able to sleep because of, certain things that are going on or certain situations? And, if that continues, like, and if you're trying to figure that out, like you had said about somebody who had said to you, you kind of start trying to write down those
mhm,
times when you're feeling those symptoms, and then try and write down or attach what trigger brought that on, to start to try and identify the things that kind of are causing you anxiety, and then kind of work backwards or kind of work forwards from there. But
mm,
they also say, like everything, getting out to exercise, eat well, don't use substances as a way of coping.
escaping.
Try and identify coping mechanisms that you can use to try and, like, my friend would struggle with social situations. So trying to get out into a crowd that she doesn't know, or trying to go to a place that she doesn't know, she would find that difficult. That
Yeah,
makes her, that really worries her and puts her off going out. So then what we do, because we all know that now, we would agree to meet her outside, and
hmm
meet her beforehand and have a chat and coffee or a drink or whatever, and then go to the next place where there's more people, so that she's comfortable with us, and we're her support when she's gone into that big room. Like,
yeah,
there's loads of wee things you can do if you're aware of them and you talk to people, because there's loads of people that are feeling the same way. And if you figure it out or you understand it, then you can introduce supports. But obviously the big one is, like, geez, for anybody, who is using, like, who's been experiencing it for a long time and it's taken over their work or taken over their life, you should speak to, a professional.
yeah.
Especially if, like, you're using substances to try and escape it, or you've got, like, worst case scenario, like you mentioned, suicidal thoughts, like, gee,
Yeah.
that's
A good like having someone to talk to and having somebody you trust and talk to, but also brain dumping, like taking a journaling session, just writing everything down that's in your head. That will really, really help you. And also what I do whenever I am feeling a bit overwhelmed, wouldn't lead into anxiety, but if I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, I lower the bar so low that I feel that I've accomplished or achieved something. People set goals. I want to live here. I want to travel here. I want to do this. And it's like so overwhelming sometimes. Set the bar so low. I want to go to Dublin for a day. Even whenever last week I had to film 3 webinar intros for one of our clients, for one of our products. And the first day I done it, I was setting up all the lights, setting up all the cameras, doing all that kind of stuff, filled the teleprompter, set up the teleprompter, started doing them, and was just so overwhelmed. It stressed me out so much. I just slammed my computer and left, went out met my friend for dinner. But whenever it came
yeah,
to Monday, I was like, Saturday, I'm going to set up the lights and the sound. That was it. On
yeah.
Sunday, I was just going to do a test with my laptop and put that stuff in the teleprompter. And then on Monday, all I had to do was sit down, hit record, and then just go through it. So lower the bar so low that you feel like you're achieving stuff.
And just another one, for if you've got, like, immediate, like, panic type attacks, or, like, sometimes it just comes on straight away, and it's real severe. There's, like, something called the 3-3-3 rule. So what you should do is think of 3 things, like, look around you and name 3 things that you can see. Then name 3 things that you can hear. Then name 3 parts of your body, to try and bring your mind back and your body back to kind of not that immediate, like, panic, panic, panic.
This girl told me
That's
once you got to think about your big toes on the
why
ground.
your big toes, I wonder.
don't know. I was just like, I was trying it then, and it did kind of it did kind of make me think about something else. I think it's just like a distraction method, you know.
Yeah, that's
But
it.
yeah, look that no, and again, you know, we're not professionals, so this is only from experience that we've done ourselves or had ourselves. Meditation and journaling, two really good things. If you aren't into them, look them up and get into them because they're a game changer. They're a life changer, in my opinion,
Yeah. And
lifesaver.
you aren't nobody we're not alone in this, you know. It's more and more.
Of
So
course,
it's just
yeah.
trying to talk about it, spread awareness, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
then we can make it more manageable for all of us.
Yeah, perfect. And they
So,
also things don't happen to you; they happen for you. And you know, with your anxiety, it's trying to tell you something. Something's not right in your life. Takes a bit of a deeper investigation. Every time I had anxiety on a big scale, there was something that I was avoiding, and I got to that
yeah.
point through meditation and journaling. Last point. Okay, so what are we doing next? I had to swap over my phone, obviously, so I haven't got my notes in front of me, which I normally do have. So apologies for that.
No worries. Well, the dilemma of the week this week is how to cope under pressure as a business startup, like a business owner, like a founder who's
Okay.
starting a business. Kind of relates into the topic of anxiety because I'm sure that's like a haven
Mm-hmm.
for anxiety to kind of rise up with all of the
Yeah.
stresses that come on, when it comes to like setting up your first business.
Yeah, well, I actually had a client this week on Life's a Beach. I think I touched on it with you. I was working with him, and it actually fell into that. That's where I had my note for set the bar so low, actually. So I had said it in the previous one. I'm just going to touch on it again slightly, probably through this process. But, you know, he is in the process of doing Life's a Beach, and he has got so many different skill sets, and we all do actually. He's got so many different avenues that he could probably write an ebook in or do an online course in. And he's trying to figure out which one. And he's trying to fit like three of them into one course. And then he's trying to do something into another course. And he's so overwhelmed. So every time he brings himself to do it, he just shuts down
Yeah.
and gets actually nothing done. You know, and I had done a call with him last week and he said, I have done nothing since last week. He said I hadn't done anything really in 3 weeks, really. And I said, listen, that's okay. That's all right. Like you're not. It's coming up to Christmas anyway. It's, you know, we could set something where you could work on it over Christmas, or you could do bits and pieces. Don't put yourself under too much pressure. You know, I said you got to set the bar really low, and I'd say all you have to do for next week is just pick one topic that you're going to focus on, just one. And I know that's really hard, but it's the main one. Got so many different things, and instead of trying to like pick the topic, write the ebook, get the ebook designed, and build the sales page, which is already done in the templates form, but even linking those up, his head was so overwhelmed with things because he sees other people in the course doing it and he sees other people progressing and moving forward faster than him. And
Yeah.
I said, this is not this, you're on your journey. Do you know, I had someone come through Life's a Beach and turned a ebook sales page and everything around in 10 days, you know,
Yeah.
because she was so aggressively wanted to do it and she turned it around 10 days. And I was like, holy crap, I couldn't even do that. I genuinely couldn't do it, you know. Um,
That's good going, to be fair. So, I mean,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was insane. You know, she's going to be a case study for sure. She's definitely going to be a case study. But then for somebody else to see that, and then they think like I'm struggling as a business startup, and you know, he said, "What's the fastest way for me to make money?" And I was like, "It's not about that. You have to
Yeah.
figure out how you're adding value. You make as much money as you want whenever you add value to someone's life, or you can bring them from A to B. You know, and if you're not
Yeah.
bringing them from A to B to completion, then why should you make money off that person?
I know. And
Do you
the
know?"
thing is, like, particularly for maybe my ears are shrunk, I don't know what's going on. Particularly for nothing else is shrinking, like, but maybe my ears. Um, particularly for startups, 1 in 5 startups fail by the end of their first year. So think about that statistic, not in a negative way, but in a way to kind of understand that, look, this business, people are feeling in this business or in this particular situation for a reason. And the reasons are there's so much to do, at the start of setting up your own business. You've got money that you're thinking about. How much money do I need to create this business? You're thinking about deadlines that you need so that you can meet all these things, that you can get the money back in quicker. You probably have no real work-life balance because you're all in the work trying to get everything done, so you're probably your your kind of work levels are up here, but like the freedom and the happy hours that you get in the day are non-existent because you're putting everything into that, and you're probably trying to do too much. And by trying to do too much, and like you said, overwhelm yourself, that's probably why, people are rushing to get something done and they're putting the pressure on themselves or putting the pressure on the business and then they're not doing it right. Whereas if you think about that statistic and think, well, I want to be that one that does make it through this year. How do I do that? Well, you need to be realistic. You need to
Yeah.
give yourself, you need to be fair to yourself. This, you need to have a balance of, yes, put everything that I've got into this, but by everything, you also need to have a bit of time where there's other things that you're doing, you're relaxing, you're enjoying the experience. And, yes, look at competitors and see what they're doing, look at other people and see what they're doing online, but don't look at them in a negative way and think, shit, I'm not there yet. Look at them and go, that's brilliant. I'm going to get there and then I'm going to go further than that.
Yeah.
Look at they've achieved. I can't wait till I'm achieving that.
Yeah.
But there's the pressures on whenever, you've got this, and not just pressure, you're super excited. Like all you do is talk about it. You're like, oh, and then I'm going
Yeah.
to do this. Oh, and then I'm going to do that. And then you get so bloody distracted because your mind is in overdrive that you
Yeah.
end up making the wrong decisions and, trying to put too much on the to-do list. It's never going to get done. You're going to feel like you're failing. Start with the plan, as we always say, but keep it small. I think they say about 3 to 5 goals you should have for your business when it's starting up, and stick to them and prioritize them. Don't kind of go outside of that.
And you are actually overwhelming yourself. Like you're the one
Yeah.
that's doing it. I have a client on, and they're going to have a very successful year, like a 7-figure year, right? And I mean, it's progressively been growing, and an amazing year, right? Really brilliant year, and I'm so excited and proud of them, and really excited to be a part of their journey. And I was talking to them last week, and I was like, we need to get into setting business goals for next year. Oh, yep, totally know what they are. I want to do 16 million next year, and I was like, I was nearly hit the deck. I was like, okay, how did we get from, a nice, comfortable growth 7-figure year to now hitting 16 million? And then they told me the reason why. And I haven't got them
What, they
back on the
wanted
call
like a
yet.
mansion in like...
It wasn't anything to do with what they wanted, right? Because they can afford a mansion. They can afford, like, they have a very successful business and they can afford everything that, the money, the things that can be achieved by money now is kind of, out, is achievable on a level. Of course, they can have more. They can have a bigger house and have a bigger car and all that kind of stuff. They had they had a specific reason why they wanted to do it, and I'm not going to share it on the podcast, but it was, I have to have another call with them and really delve into their why. Like, why do they want to do that amount of money? Because, it's just, what I can find is it can overwhelm the team. It can overwhelm the people that are working there. It can put unrealistic goals set. There's a couple of things happen whenever you set these really big unrealistic goals that are unachievable with the team that you have, or with the time that you have, or with the experience that you have, or with the product that you have. There's various reasons why they're unachievable. Otherwise you have to scale your team, you have to reinvest a lot of money, all that kind of stuff. But what happens, I find, is that yourself and the other team members, and as that goal gets further and further and further away, people on the team get disheartened. They don't feel as comfortable. They don't feel as good. They don't feel as excited. And then it becomes such a distant, far, far off thing that they're never going to be able to achieve, that they switch off.
Yeah.
They don't even try anymore. Where
Yeah.
if we increase that into, okay, what about hitting 2.5 million? What about that? Because that, I believe, is achievable. Broken down into monthlies, it's really achievable. If we stay on track, I believe that that's what we'll be doing. But the close of year 2024, 16 million makes me feel overwhelmed and like, I
And then
can't
you know what?
really.
It has a knock-on effect because you're not going to then have this, you're not going to be able to show up the way that you would because it's not actually achievable, and then it impacts your day. It impacts, everybody else's day. It impacts my day because I'm speaking to you who's now overwhelmed with this, So whoever it is, no.
I know. Well,
No,
the
I'm
thing
only
is,
joking.
I'm going to go back and we will have a really, really healthy target to hit. But the reason why I'm telling you that story, and they won't mind me telling it on the podcast because they listen to the podcast there, and they listen to they've listened to everything that we have advised them in the Mindset and Marketing Academy and through Bankhouse Media, and that's why they're really growing all the time because they work so hard and together we all work really well as a team. But you're overwhelming yourself. You're putting too big unrealistic expectations on. Like sometimes I'm talking to another girl who's doing Life's a Beach and she said, I've got a deadline for the 2nd of December. I said, it's totally achievable. Let's do it. Let's go. Whereas she had said the 21st of November and I want everything live and money to be made by the 2nd of December, I'd be like, okay, well, we're going to have to work night and day. Are you prepared to do that? So you have control over how overwhelmed you are on a daily basis, you know?
I
Um,
think, yeah, that's a big thing, particularly back to the guys who are just starting a business for the first time, is try and, put that structure to your day. It shouldn't be 24/7 because you're going to burn out, you know, and you're not going to be able to have the same energy then that you have that you would have if you were doing it for less hours in the day. So like have a plan for your day that you're going to be working on it. It can be a few hours here, then a few hours there, or a set block of hours, whatever it might be. Um, so that you're kind of planning that and you know what you need to do each day and there is a cutoff point. But also during that time, if you can, and I know how hard it is, try and switch the phone off, switch the emails off so that you're not being interrupted so you can be super focused. The average person, right? I think it's more than this, but gets 46 push notifications a day. I'm like, what? I'm
I get
thinking, I'm
that.
like, I'm like times that by 4. I'm
I
like,
have
what are you
that by the
talking
time I
about?
woke up, and I have most people archived in WhatsApp.
Yeah,
The archiving on WhatsApp has just been life changing for me. And turning off
because
notifications.
even if you don't go and actually respond to the message or the email or whatever, you'll read it and then it takes you off track and then you have to get your mind back into it again. It would be
Hmm.
so much better if you could have 3 hours blocked, everything's off and you just do that work alongside your business plan, and like you say, don't overwhelm yourself. Even do a
Hmm.
week, and say, I'm going
Yeah.
to do these 3 things that day, this day, this day, this day. And then, it's a more enjoyable process and you're not then just flying off the excitement, flying off with all the excitement that's running through your head, going, let me do this, and not getting distracted and potentially going down the wrong path.
Yeah. And also what you can do is once you have enough money, once you start to get money back into your business, reinvest it into business mentorship. And even if you're with local enterprise office in the south of Ireland or Intertrade Ireland or Invest NI, and there's all ones all through the UK, they're all over the world, they're all over America. There is organizations that are government funded that you can go and say, hey, I'm a startup, can I have help? And they will help you for free. I'm actually a registered mentor for local enterprise office Dublin City, and every time they pay me, but they will send me I'll just get a purchase order and then I'll get Sharon, a business owner, and then I get I think it's eight, they get 6 calls with me, 6 1 hour calls or maybe 8. And I love doing it. So, and as
Yeah.
soon as and I always say to they always say, how can I stay on? And I was like, well, here's what you can do if you want to, or when you can afford to come back and let's have a look at it or do one-off calls. But business mentorship is something that is just so beneficial to the business owner for taking away that overwhelming feeling or just covering things that you don't understand what is there. And it's something that is not ashamed of for taking, like grab it with both hands. And as soon as you can afford it, pay for it. I have a mentor that I pay for. Everybody has mentors in business that are successful. I'm a mentor to some business owners, and then I have mentors in certain different areas that I need help with. And at the minute, I'm just got a mentor in Google Ads because I want to become an expert. Because I've got a Google Ads team, I want to know exactly the ins and outs and every single thing about Google Ads. Am I going to sit down and build a campaign? No, I'm not. But I am going to be managing a team and I am going to be selling that service to my clients. So it's important for me to sell that confidently, to know every single thing about it. So I just hire a mentor in that area, and as soon as you can, it's going to help you so much in business with deciphering what your cash flow is, understanding that these problems are everybody faces them and you're not alone, or like this is the fastest route to get out of this because I've already done it. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's I wish I had
That
have invested in business mentorship sooner because I spent so much money on I wasted money on staff, to be honest, or
but
that I
like you
thought was
say,
going to grow my
there's
business.
like you say though, there's loads that you can get for free too. You know, there's loads of government programs that will help you,
Hmm.
like with a business startup. And that's one of the big things, because a lot of the time, you know, if you're a founder or an entrepreneur looking to start something new, a lot of the times you're not going to have the money for, you know, any other staff. Your family are probably going to get pissed off at some point, you know, with you like always spending your time talking about it
Yeah.
or asking for their help for free. And so it can be quite an isolating and lonely experience, because you might be thinking, oh, I'm always asking them for favors here, or oh, I need this or I need that. Whereas these programs, these people, these mentors are kind of there to support you and
Mm.
help you grow, you know. And yes, pay for ones when you can, but there are free ones too that you can avail of, so that, you know.
I have been talking to people within those organizations, right, that are government funded that don't spend their quota by the end of the year. So they've
Yeah.
got money left in a big bank account of a budget that they have not spent, that business owners have not availed of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what is going on, you know? So I just encourage everybody to just go out and ask, and it's back into that thing that we talk about, asking for help, you know. But put in how to get free business mentorship, put that into Google and see what comes up. In my local area, how do I get free business mentorship?
Yeah.
You know?
Now, obviously, there's loads of different types of businesses that people can be starting. You know, there's the bricks and mortar, and then there's the online. So we're mostly focused on, you know, the online side of
Hmm.
business startups. And the great thing about that is one of the big stresses is obviously money to get the business up and running, the capital
Yeah.
costs of all of that. So if you're not having to pay for a warehouse, or you're not having to pay for a high street store, or, you know, whatever it might be, the electricities and all to run that, and blah, blah, list goes on, you know, you can reduce the financial burden substantially if the business that you're thinking about is an online one. So if whatever business, and we talk about this all the time, you know, whatever business idea you have, try and brain dump that and brainstorm ways in which you could turn that into an online business, because you definitely can, you know, and
Yeah.
that will help remove some of that kind of, some of the heavy costs involved at the start.
Absolutely. Like that's the thing. And you know, the entry point into the Mindset and Marketing Academy is free. You know, the digital marketing revolution, the evolution of success, the AI online business launchpad. And then the entry point then for price is like $47 for the ebook, $497 for to start your own business, sales funnels and everything for Life's a Beach. It's not that expensive to get support and help. To try to do it by yourself, it's too difficult. You know, I did have a mentor, but I wish I had have had Life's a Beach. I wish I had have had the Mindset and Marketing Academy, and that was one of the reasons why I created it. You know, because it is people need support. It takes a what's that? It takes a village. I think that's for raising a child though, but starting a business, it practically is a baby, do you
Is a
know?
child. Yeah.
Well, it
Pretty
kind
much
of
the
is.
same.
It takes a village to create it, you know. It's
But
the same
that's
for me. I don't plan on having any children, so it's like it is my baby, my business, you know. And a lot of people do get a lot of love from their business, and you know, get a lot of satisfaction and all those different things. So take the help whenever it's there.
one of the good things about, you know, because you can build an online business for yourself for free by just educating yourself, you know, and doing all of that online courses, how to build a website, you know, how to create a good social media strategy, how to do SEO, how to build sales pages, how to create my first online product, da, 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 da. But so you can do all that for free, but the time, what you're doing then is having to invest that time, you know, to
Hmm.
learn all of those things. So that's why, you know, like, yeah, like you said, with Life's a Beach or with Mindset Marketing and other people out there, I don't think people are doing exactly what we're doing, but we're kind of skipping all that time, because
Yeah.
then we're just taking you from here to here, you know, without having to sit and educate yourself in it all, because it's all built for you. We're
Yeah.
just taking you through how we built it and just you fill in the gaps. So, there's again another reason for an online business, because you're removing the time needed if you wanted to do it for free to just get ahead of the game for like 400 and something
I always say
dollars.
it's less in the
What is it?
price of your device that you're watching this on or listening to this on. It's less like than your phone, like half the price of an iPhone. But it's funny. Time, I think, is the time is interesting for me. It's the most valuable commodity in the world. You know.
Just to say, one of my favorite quotes was from, well, it's probably from other people, but I heard it from Dolly Parton. She said, "Time is the best gift you can ever give somebody." So she said, "I'm never late for anything, because how dare I take away somebody's time?" And I'm like, yes,
That's
Dolly.
you're pretty good at that though. You do give people your time, like you're actual, like you're locked in. I'm way better now than what I was. Like I put my phone on airplane mode in the fucking second. Any opportunity I get, I'm like, get it out of here. I do as soon as I can. But years ago I wasn't. But whenever I do go through my one-on-one calls and we go through what it is people want to achieve, money is on there, right? Of course, that's what we're doing. We're here to make money. That's what the business model is. But the majority of them really, they think it's money, but it's actually not. It's time, and they would sacrifice some money to have more time with their children or have more time away from their computer or putting their phone on airplane mode. And actually, a lot of people will take a hit on that big, massive multi-million figure because they understand that they can live for a lot less and have way more time to themselves. So
Yeah.
it's weird. It's a weird one. I just feel that like for now, time is really important to me. To have time to go to the gym, to hang out with friends, to go for dinner, to travel, to do all these things. Whenever my time gets taken away by sitting in traffic and things, I just can't deal with it. I just feel like that is like I felt last night like this. I was thinking this is the
We're
biggest
back.
waste of my time. I was like, what am I doing here? And the thing is, I was locked in. I couldn't go the other way because I couldn't even go back to my house because the traffic was
Now
even
you're
worse.
trapped.
And I was completely trapped. And I was like, this is absolutely insane. I just thought it was crazy.
That's another valid point, because sometimes then when you're starting up a business, you've got loads of ideas floating around, and then you're kind of everything's a bit up in the air. So you're trying a million things. Then you get to a point where you've took maybe an idea or a concept so far, and then you feel like you still need to run with it, and you feel
Hmm.
trapped, because you've invested so much of your time already in that. But
Yeah.
when you're going through starting up a business, you're going to learn things along the way. It's all new. You're not going to hit the ground on day one and go, this is exactly right. This is exactly the way to do it. And this is exactly the thing I need to say. That doesn't work. But people then see that as, shit, well, I still have to rub with this because I've done all this work and I feel trapped now. But really you're not trapped. You've actually just learnt a lot of good intel that you then utilize to change things around a bit so that you're moving in the right direction, and not just running with something that in your heart, this isn't
Well,
right.
that's what I said to the guy who was doing Life's a Beach. I was like, your first business that we build together through this process, or your first ebook, is not going to be your final one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're going to learn so much through this process. Stop trying to think that you're picking your retirement home, picking your retirement package. This is like an enjoyable journey. You're learning, that's it. You're learning as you go through it. But yeah, and that's what I look. I've pivoted so many times over the years, and everybody will, and I will again in the future. And I'm looking forward to setting new goals for 2024 and saying, okay, where are we going to next? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look, we thank you so much for listening and watching, and all the comments and all the feedback. We really do appreciate it. And we will see you on the next one.
See you
Bye.
soon.
See ya.
Bye.